My name is Karina, and this is Abigail. We're both part of the partnerships team at Asians in Animation, and we are so excited for today because we've got two lovely panelists, Carmen and Amanda, who will be speaking about Schell Games, their own team, their projects, and also the recruitment process. So they'll be answering all of your questions that you have today. Feel free to put them in the Q&A box. And yeah, we're going to be really excited for this presentation. All the questions will be answered at the end. So I'm going to pass the mic to Carmen now.
Thank you so much, Karina. And welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending. We are looking forward to sharing information with you in regards to our studio, some of our best practices, as well as a little bit of tips and tricks from the recruiter's perspective. I want you to know that all the information that we are sharing is for educational purposes. So take those tips and tricks and utilize them. But as always, do your own research and make sure that you are proficient in understanding what you're researching about. Now, a little bit about me. My name is Carmen DeMint. As you see on that slide, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist over at Schell Games, as well as the Recruiting Partnership Coordinator. That's just a fancy way of saying that I work with wonderful people like Asians in Animation to be able to create experiences like this and beyond, because we're hoping that we're going to come back and share some more information. Being a recruiter who specializes in diversity inclusion, meaning I'm certified to have those types of conversations. Been working in industry for well over 20 years, and I'm very passionate about neurodivergency and matching exceptional talent like these people in the room that I'm speaking with today with their dream roles and championing each and every one of your authenticity. I'm gonna throw it over to Amanda.
Thanks, Carmen. Obviously, my name is Amanda Lurz. My pronouns are she and her. I have been with the studio for about a year and a half now, and I'll be 2 years in the fall time frame. And I'm coming with 17 years in undergraduate recruiting and graduate recruiting from Carnegie Mellon University, so local here. So definitely a lot of experience from that perspective, and have made that transition into gaming and the gaming industry. So we might touch base on that a little bit later. In regards to one of the things I love, as Carmen said, I love my job because it gives me an opportunity to help make people's dreams come true of working in the gaming industry. Obviously, one of the pieces that I love to be involved in is definitely in connection to colleges and universities across the nation, and connecting us, definitely all the different programs that you all are coming from that are fabulous. It's a great opportunity for us to stay connected to those as well. So we are going to jump in and get started. Before we jump in, we like to show you a video just so it gives you a chance to hear from Jesse Schell, who is our founder and CEO, as well as to get to see our studios a little bit. Kind of a fun way to get that perspective before we kind of jump in.
Schell Games is not your typical game studio. With our long history in the game industry, we are uniquely positioned to create interactive experiences that engage and inspire players of all ages across all platforms. Our portfolio includes projects ranging from mobile games to virtual reality games to interactive installations to theme park attractions and everything else in between. As a leader in virtual and augmented reality, Schell Games is capable of leveraging these powerful new technologies to create immersive experiences that educate, entertain, and engage. We are always ready to experiment with the latest technologies and the newest techniques. Not only are we different, we are experienced. Since 2002, our award-winning studio has worked with world-class clients and partners in diverse industries, including toys and games, healthcare, technology, education, and entertainment. As the largest education and entertainment game development company in the U.S., our team of over 100 people is committed to bridging the gap between educational and entertainment games to develop experiences that surpass our clients' expectations. Our diverse staff is a seasoned group of artists, designers, animators, engineers, producers, and audio professionals who create games with purpose and with pride. Schell Games, amazing teams, amazing experiences, amazing fun. Schell Games is not your typical game studio.
All right, everyone. Well, now I'm going to take a minute to share with you a little bit more about our studio as well. Obviously, you heard from Jesse that we are one of the largest full-size game design and development studios in the country. And what that means is a variety of different things. We work with all kinds of different clients in regards to all of the different projects and things that we work on. But we can work on something that could be from a concept or an idea, or it could be a client coming to us with a specific IP that's already created, and they have details of how they want us to move about in regards to creating that too. So it's definitely something we love to do. Also, we cover all kinds of different areas. So as a gaming studio, one of the things that is rare about us is that we do, yes, definitely cover the entertainment side, which we'll jump into in just a moment with some of the games listed below. But we also hit a lot on the educational side too. So nonprofit organizations, healthcare organizations, museums as well. And then all the way to location-based installation of amusement park rides. More than likely, many of you have ridden probably something that we've created as well. So definitely such a fun place to be able to be a part of because of the so many different projects we work on. In regards to when we were founded in 2002 by Jesse Schell, Jesse actually was working for Disney Imagineering in California prior to that and wanted to come back to the East Coast. He and his wife were from the East Coast and wanted to make that change. So he was actually recruited by Randy Pausch, who was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University's Entertainment Technology Center, which is a graduate program. Randy Pausch is often a name that some people are familiar with. If you look up the last lecture that he had done, that's kind of one of his famous lecture that he had done that a lot of people know about. But he was the one who kind of recruited Jesse to come and be a professor at the ETC. Loved it, loved that experience, loved being able to interact. But one of the things he missed was very much kind of that regular connection. So he'd help students and then they would go off and graduate and do amazing things. So it was that cycle that was getting hard. And so he missed being able to work with people. Also, Disney didn't want to lose him. So they very much wanted to still do some work. And so Disney had approached him in regards to working on a project. And he had said, okay, I could do this, but I'm going to need a team to be able to make this happen. So he grabbed 5 graduates of the ETC program, and that is how Schell Games started. One of the things that I love about our studio, and many things, but one of them as well is kind of hits on that, longer term perspective. People stay here for a long time for a reason. That work-life balance is really important to our studio. So 4 of those 5 people that helped start it over 21, 22 at this point years ago are actually still here in the studio in a leadership perspective. So definitely one of the many things that I love about the studio. Obviously, we're here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So if you haven't had a chance to come to Pittsburgh, it's a great city. Would love to have you come check it out. We are in a neat spot in the city. So have, as you saw from that video, some beautiful views of the city. Our studio is absolutely beautiful. It's such a creative, whimsical place to be. We have some secret doors and secret rooms, and that creative side is really important to be able to have around us, which helps definitely for teams to be able to create those too. In regards to our size, I like to say we're not too big, not too small. We have 160 people, and so it's a great place where you can get to know everyone. That was one of the things when I was making a change that was important to me, was finding a place where I wasn't a number, but I had a chance to create relationships with people, and I was known in the studio. So that was something that I definitely love about the studio, is our size. Also, in regards to the type of people we look for, we always love to say we look for kind, creative, and curious people. And there's many different pieces that kind of hit within those 3 words in regards to that recruiting side specifically. Now, on the fun side, a little bit about some of our games. Schell Games is definitely known currently in regards to the VR realm. In the middle there, Among Us VR is definitely our most popular. Believe it or not, it's not even 2 years old yet. So it's definitely something we're extremely proud of. Obviously, it's something that's continuing. So it's a live ops game. That is actually our first live ops game that we have been working on. So it's something we're really proud of, and always looking for different ways to improve and iterate and change as well. Also, kind of hitting on that educational side of things. So the game to my right, as well as I believe your right as well, is Lost Recipes. So that hits on something as well in regards to kind of many factors that we take into consideration in creating a game, wanting to help create games that are going to help make the world a better place. And there's all kinds of different ways to be able to do that. And our Lost Recipes is kind of a cozy game. It's a VR game. It's an opportunity for you to be able to do some cultural cooking. So there's 3 specific cultures that we focus on. And one of the things as a studio that's really important to us is making sure that every aspect of the game is as accurate as we can have it be. We want to make sure that we do our very best down to every detail. So for example, within Lost Recipes, we actually have someone within our studio who focuses on the educational research. So she did all of the research to make sure everything was accurate. What you're seeing was accurate, all the way down to the voice actors, making sure that they were from that specific culture was really important to us as a studio. Now, on the other side is Silent Slayer, which is one of our newest VR games that was just released, and it's our first jump scare game. So definitely kind of leaning into a new area within the studio. And one of the things that's really cool within our studio that we do, once a year, we have something where it gives us a chance where we call it Jam Week. So we pause all of our current projects and we focus strictly on passion projects. So we have a chance as a studio where you get to be a part of, maybe someone has an idea to create a game and you have a chance to work on it together throughout the week. And you don't have to be in that specific role. Let's say you're a designer, but you'd love to do some programming. So you have a chance to kind of lean into that and really learn something new or just step into something you're passionate about. And the neat thing is a lot of times those games can also lead or those creation of games can lead to something else. And that is a great example of Silent Slayer. So Silent Slayer actually came out of one of our Jam Week projects that we had done. So it's definitely exciting to know that whatever you work on, it's very possible it could become a game here at our studio. Now, underneath that is Until You Fall. And so this is another VR game specifically that we have. As a studio, we don't exclusively work in VR. That just happens to be a lot of the different projects, and a lot of clients come to us wanting to work with us within that area just because it's a strength of ours for sure. But with Until You Fall, that's a great example of an internal IP. And another great example is also how valuable that client work can be for us that we can use internally as well. As a studio, Jesse's goal was at 20 years, which we got to, is that we would be a 50-50 balance in regards to our projects. So 50% of those projects are internal projects. The other 50% are those client projects. So those client projects are really important. And another piece that's really important with that is stability. Those client projects also help us to be stable. And one piece that I definitely like to point out, as a studio, we have never had layoffs. And that is something we work really hard on, is that stability and sustainability. Obviously, if you are in the gaming industry, you know right now, unfortunately, there are way too many layoffs. So we are really unique in that regard, as that's a priority for us as a studio as well. So in regards to Until You Fall, one of the great things too is skills that you can learn in working with a client gives us the opportunity to learn new things, learn new skills, new software that we might not learn elsewhere. And we can then apply it more specifically to, games and things that we're working on too. So Until You Fall is a great example of that piece. At the very bottom, I Expect You to Die. So this is often something also that people are familiar with. This is our first franchise, which we're really proud of. So we have 3 now. It is extremely popular. It's kind of a great balance between, I like to say, like a spy, James Bond kind of feel, as well as an escape room concept. So it's definitely a fun, creative puzzle type of game. If you enjoy those, it's a great chance to do that. But something we're really proud of is that it is a franchise. This is an opportunity where we've been able to continue to add to that, and each game has some new piece to it, new artistic piece to it as well, that really we're constantly working to push forward. And last but not least, Holoride Cosmic Chase. So this is an example of something, again, very unique. So this is actually an opportunity. It's actually connected to Porsche. And in California, they actually have their own specific course. And so we actually created a VR ride where you're actually in the car doing the game and actually riding. So it very much feels very realistic as well. So it's a very unique opportunity. Again, we get really cool and unique opportunities that we get to help create with clients. So I'm going to pass it over to Carmen.
Thanks, Amanda. So in this slide, we're going to talk a little bit about our mission statement. Being that our studio has a servant leadership, and if you're not familiar with what that is we lead from the bottom to the top. Everyone has a voice and a seat at the table, and we encourage you to learn, explore, and share. So our mission statement is to create experiences that we are proud of and working with people we like so we can make the world better through games. That kind of reflects in our vast and diverse set of projects, and also IP, working in all those things that Amanda mentioned, education, VR, and beyond. And we believe that diversity makes us strong. We foster diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And for us, that is not just a mission statement and or a piece on our website. That is something we're always looking at and evolving and changing as the world changes, which I know you all know that that's very important to each and every one of you, as it's important to us. And we believe in the power of mentorship and collaboration, to empower the next generation of talent, or as I like to call you, the next generation of change makers. And below you can see that we've had the opportunity to work with a variety of companies showcasing our diverse portfolio. Our projects have spanned different industries, including education, VR, and location-based initiatives. As you can see on this slide, we've worked with Disney, Oculus, Google, and little known fact, Pittsburgh Zoo to create awesome experiences. And then we also have developed, as Amanda said, our internal IP, which also helps with our security and not having any layoffs. Right. On this slide, we're going to talk a little bit about disciplines within our industry. As you can see, we have various disciplines specific to the larger buckets like design, art, engineering, production, quality, assurance, and educational research. As Amanda mentioned previously, for our cooking game, we have someone who did all the research to make sure that it was not only specific to the region or the culture, but also the recipes, you were able to make those outside of the game. And that's very important to be able to identify those things that are cultural representation. Thanks, Amanda. All right, we're breaking out some of the sub-disciplines here. And if you're not familiar with sub-disciplines, those are disciplines that are inside of those major disciplines that we talked about in the previous slide. So for example, animation for us in our studio, it falls under art. Audio also falls under art for us, reading as well, and character art and environment art. Art is our largest department in our studio, as you guys can imagine, secondary to engineering. Now, engineering can have a specific focus, like graphics and gameplay and performance. So if you're not familiar with those subcategories and you love engineering, but you're not sure which way to go, take a look at those and research those.
I think Carmen froze on us. We'll wait 1 second. Hopefully she'll come back.
Yeah. Too bad if she's still talking.
Oh, I'm sure she got it. Well, I'll jump in for the time being. Hopefully she'll be able to jump in. One of the things we also like to share is also the operations side. When people think of game design, yes, there are obviously the developers, and you all are very important in the process, but a game could not be completed and released without all of us being involved in the process. So for our studio, every studio is a little bit different on how they break it down. We do also have product. So that is separate of production. It is very different. As you can see, it's very much focused on the actual product itself and finding that overall success of the game. There can be so many pieces that are taken into consideration. They work very closely, yes, with the developers, but also with marketing as well, just to name a couple. And then speaking of marketing, definitely a very important part of the studio is our marketing department. They cover many different things from past games to current games, as well as obviously working on future games. And there's so many pieces within marketing, but again, being able to promote and showcase those different products is really important to us. Then also human resources, which is where myself and Carmen are. Definitely that's the recruiting side of it, but also just that internal side is really important too. Just being able to support you as an employee and as a person as well. We can't thrive within the studio and our professional work experience unless we're able to thrive as a person too. So that is really important. IT or information technology, again, everything's done through technology. So we need someone to make sure that we actually have the computers and the software and everything's running properly. Financial side, got to make sure we have the money to make it happen. And then definitely that administrative office management side. So some of the reason we want to share these, we'll get to in regards to internships and fellowships, but sometimes there's opportunities if you're kind of more interested in this angle or these side of things too. Those are still really important to us as a studio. Not sure if Carmen's back yet.
I am back. Can you see me and hear me okay?
There you are. Great.
Great. Sorry about that, guys. The internet gods were a bit angry, apparently, and decided to pull the plug. But I'm going to just take a step back into VFX because I know that definitely applies to some of you in this room. Now, VFX is a critical role for both video games and TV and film, right? So they're both applications that can develop unique requirements through real-time rendering or pre-rendering. So for video games, VFX are rendering in real time as the game is played. So those require a lot of optimization, smooth performance, and also working with engineers for dynamic lighting, textures, and things like that. So now for movies, VFX also includes pre-rendering, but it allows to get a little more complex in effects and details specific to things like explosions and those types of situations. They are very high resolution effects in comparison to some video games. As you know, TVs have 4K now, so everybody has to have that good picture. And then also a lot of TV and film go into mocap. So you'll be working with some of those people. And then again, some of that is not in real time as well. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea on the differences between TV, film, and video games specific to VFX and animation.
I'm going to jump back in here. Like I mentioned, we do want to also share with you in regards to internships and fellowships. Many of you out there might be still in school or finishing up school and really looking for an opportunity to get into the industry. And you've probably come across that it can be really challenging to get into the industry. Oftentimes they'll say, oh, well, you need experience, but someone's got to give you the experience first for you to be able to actually get into that opportunity. So as a studio, that really is important to us. We always want to make sure to give as many people an opportunity to be able to jump into the field. And that means the actual experience, hands-on experience. For our internships and our fellowships, you're not coming in to watch, you're coming in to do. So you are very much coming in on that specific role, whether it's maybe a designer or an engineer, you're coming in doing the work that any other full-time engineer or designer would be doing. Might be a little bit less, but obviously a lot of learning pieces connected to it, but that is really important to us as a studio. So in regards to internship opportunities, we do have some. Typically, they tend to be in the fall timeframe and spring. So like a fall, September start time frame or a January, February start time frame, just because summers oftentimes are challenging for us because it's such a limited time frame. By the time you actually get here, start working on a project, then you have to leave. So you're not able to actually really get a ton of experience. So we tend to do our internships for the most part in the fall and the spring time frame. So it's a great opportunity for you to obviously come receive credit, but you're also paid. That's important too. So it's definitely for those of you that are currently enrolled in a degree program or a training program. Like I mentioned, you are full team members within the studio. That's really important. And there's obviously all different areas. So art, design, engineering, or production that you have an opportunity to go into. One thing I do like to share at this point too is in regards to our internships and fellowships, you really need to know what you're interested in. We typically are looking at people that are going to be seniors because there could be the opportunity once the internship is done that it could turn into a full-time opportunity. But also at that point as a senior, you know what you want. So you can't, at our studio, you really need to know, I want to be a designer, and here's the reason why. We're not looking for you to know, I want to be a narrative designer or, anything specific, or a technical designer, whatever the case might be. We're looking for people that know they want to be designers versus, I don't know, I'm deciding between design and engineering and I'm not quite sure. Our studio would be a really hard one for that, just because you're coming in doing that specific role. So I always like to share that up front as well. In regards to benefits, that's also important too. You are paid, but you also receive a variety of other things as well. Transportation or parking pass, which is important, helps to help fund in the process. Some sick days, definitely IGDA membership, and definitely some more things as well. Now, in regards to fellowships, so this is for those of you that have graduated already. That's the difference between ours. Internship is still in school. Fellowship is you've graduated and or completed whatever your program is. So with our fellowships still, similar concept in regards to internship. You're coming in as that full team member, but our programs are at least 6 months. It has the ability to go up to 9 months, but obviously we are not limited to a specific time frame in regards to a college or university schedule. So we can start them at a variety of different time frames. We do our best to try to have kind of more of a typical time frame, like a fall start, winter start, things like that. But obviously it could depend more specifically. In regards to kind of benefits, you do also, for our fellowships, receive a little bit more. So you receive a medical, dental, and vision, as well as a housing stipend. And then, as I mentioned, there's art, design, engineering, production, but there's also that operation. So that was some of the reason we wanted to make sure to point that out. There might be those of you interested also maybe in a marketing perspective or something like that. So those are possible to have fellowships connected to that. In regards to fellowships and internships, when do we have them, and do we have any currently? Unfortunately, we don't have any currently that are open. Our website really is the best place for you to constantly kind of keep tabs on if you're interested in us more specifically. We will get to at the end in just a minute our LinkedIn contact information. Of course, we'd love to get connected with you. That's really a great resource, and we will always post when we have opportunities as well listed, but always keep tabs on our website because that's really the best place to see those. Carmen, feel free. I'm going to let you kind of jump in just at this part.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the QR code there will take you right to our careers page. So if you're interested in any of those positions that we have open, now we are looking for a lot of seniors right now, but at least you will be able to bookmark that so that you can go back to it. There is a blog section on our page of the website, as well as information specifically in regards to Amanda and myself. You can take a peek behind the curtain. Also, our LinkedIn is there, just like we mentioned. And don't be afraid to drop a little bit of a connection over there, but I will make it with a caveat that unfortunately we cannot do a resume review or portfolio review for you because we are just busy making games, right? That is something that I would press upon you to, if you don't have a mentor, you need to get one specific to your discipline. That makes a big deal. And then also, one of the great resources is International Gaming Development Association, which Amanda mentioned, IGDA. There you will find mentors galore, people that are specifically wanting to help you grow in your career because they remember what it's like to be where you are. There are other organizations, of course, that I could point out, and I've also made posts on my LinkedIn to share some of those that are friendly and that are a safe place for you to land. And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to jump into that QA just a minute.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this informative presentation. We have lots of questions. So I will try to get through most of them. Our first one was kind of related to what Carmen just mentioned about learning outside and getting mentors. Someone was curious about the business aspect of gaming, such as like marketing or distribution, if you had any tips for how to gain more experience with that. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I'll take this one, Amanda. So from a perspective of biz dev, which is business development and or marketing or PR and or graphics design, right? Those are things that you're able to do with some of those transferable skills. So for those of you who have not taken maybe a computer major, and maybe you've majored in public relations and or advertising or some other places like that, those are skills that are transferable into video games. Now, I will say that it's important that you still participate in those things like game jams and other areas that you're able to show the work that you've completed and or documentation or presentations. And please outline those in your portfolio where you feel they would be specific to the transition to games, or if you're already in games and you've done some of those things within your purview of your desired role, put in a little bit of a story, how you developed the project, where some of those bottlenecks were for you, and or how you tackled that challenge. Because as a recruiter, one of the things we're going to go out and do is take a look at that portfolio and see some of those soft skills that you may have indicated: communication, collaboration, documentation. Being able to share those things on your portfolio specific to your skill set is very important for us to look at as a recruiter. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. Our second question comes from Sophia, who wants to ask Amanda to talk about her transition into the games industry, the motivation and challenges.
Sure thing. Thank you. That's a great question, and glad to be able to speak into it. As I'd mentioned, obviously coming from more of a academia and education background and making that change, obviously every industry is going to be a little bit different, as well as every, specific job that you're interested in. Coming with a lot of recruiting experience, that was definitely my knowledge that I was able to bring with me, and be able to make that transition into the industry. So obviously, if you're interested in making that transition, if you're interested more on the development side, whether it's, being a designer, being an artist, engineer, obviously there's a lot of skill sets and soft skills, yes, but the skill set in regards to, definitely having the tools and the knowledge is something that's really important to be able to work on. So a lot of times being able to do some things maybe outside of work hours, if you have a full-time job in one thing, but you'd love to lean into ultimately getting into the gaming industry. So a lot of times if you have opportunities to do things like game jams, those are great opportunities for sure, because again, you're getting that experience of what it's like to be a part of a team and actually creating a game, as well as a timetable. Our timetable is something that's really something we have to take into consideration, definitely budget, but also how long is it going to take? And as a team, we have to figure out how to work together. So a lot of those skills that you're going to be just practicing and using and learning while you're at a game jam are going to be extremely helpful. And those are things we would love to see on your resume. Again, it's not necessarily needing to have a ton of experience, professional experience, but if you're also willing to potentially take a little bit of a step back, if you're interested to get into, let's say being a designer and you're coming from a very different background, you might have to start in an entry-level position as well to kind of get that opportunity to be able to be in that specific area you're passionate and interested in. So there are a couple things to think about, and definitely things to be working on while you're waiting to kind of make that transition for sure. So for myself, I was very thankful. I had an awesome studio that was open to my experience and realizing those skills. There's a lot of skills that you need to just have. You can't necessarily learn. And so we are definitely aware of that as a studio and want to always be open to people that are making a transition from maybe a different industry, but have some incredible skill sets. The best part for me, again, this leans into that kind, creative, curious person that we're we're looking for. That curious side leans into learning and the passion for learning. For me, I had to come in and learn a lot very quickly. So I was jumping in, watching as many videos, talking to people, sitting in as many meetings and opportunities, learning opportunities that I had that gave me a chance. So there's still a lot of information that will go over my head, but definitely still continuing to learn, and keeping that passion and desire to learn has been a huge help for me in the process.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think we had a lot of questions today about people pivoting from a different professional career. And that is like on a lot of people's minds, like how do we use these transferable skills? One other question we had is kind of regarding someone from a different continent, like when they're applying, are there certain things they should look out for? For this person, they have been working in publishing of games and live games, and they're curious how they can join Schell Games, coming from a different, maybe like continent, and yeah.
I'll lean into this one a little bit. So there are definitely more questions I would have, but in regards to international candidates, currently as a studio, we are not hiring international candidates. We are looking for people that will be here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are not actively looking for remote employees. About a year ago as a studio, we've realized post-COVID how valuable it is for us to be together as a team, and how much just learning and connection and growth that can happen when you're physically together as well. So that is one of the pieces that we take into consideration. If there are definitely other things to consider, obviously, we definitely also consider people with different visas and things like that. Yes, that is definitely something that we take into consideration. So it's not in necessarily a connection to that. But like I said, having people here is really the important part for us as a studio.
And I'll just piggyback on what Amanda said, because I agree 100%, but also that brings us to the perspective of internships and fellowships. Now, like Amanda said, we find it very valuable and important that everyone is together to be able to work and also set our interns and fellowships up for success, specific to the fact that when you put an application in for a fellowship, you have an expectation of learning, right? You have an expectation of being able to work through those goals that you've set for yourself. In order for us to do that and understand what you would like to do with your career, and then also guide you, mentor you, and help you grow, that takes in person, because as everyone knows, with the technology that we have in 2024, sometimes text or copy can be construed as a little bit difficult to read with emotions. We got emojis, but sometimes those emojis can be read wrong too. So we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to be able to support anyone who is working with us, and that includes internships and fellowships, with a face-to-face, very respectful line of ways of working and best practices.
That's fantastic to hear. We have a comment in the chat that was asking, I'm a QA tester and project manager, but I have a disability. And do you, maybe you can speak on like how hiring people with disabilities for internships and job opportunities?
I can take that one as well. So for us, obviously, with our studio, I should say obviously, with our studio being very committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, disabilities are not a blocker for employment for us. Now, of course, from an HR perspective, you do not have to disclose private information to us within that prospect of an interview. However, if for some reason you would need accommodations, that is something we would love to talk through with you to make sure that we're able to give those to you, specific to you bringing your best self to work. Now, I can only speak to our studio in this aspect. Other studios may do something a little bit different, but for us, it's not a blocker to employment or internships and fellowships. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And we have another question regarding more audio, like if you have sound design or audio internship opportunities for people.
Currently, we do not have any audio internships, but it doesn't mean they may not come up in the future. So for audio, for us, we have audio technical design, and then we have audio like QA and project people. So with us, it's going to be something that is a unique perspective when we need audio, because we have a state-of-the-art audio recording studio as well as an audio department, but we do outsource some of that from time to time. But again, if you're an audio person and you're wanting to have an internship or a fellowship with us, it's very critical and important that you have that portfolio to show some of your work, or even better yet, we can listen to some of those things you've created. And or bonus skill, if you're able to put images to that music or sound to be able to show how you're tracking it, that's awesome, whether it's our studio or another studio.
And I want to piggyback just one piece that Carmen just helped me remember that I wanted to pass along. In regards to our internships and fellowships, we don't necessarily have them every semester or a specific amount we're looking for. One important thing for us as a studio is if we're going to be bringing someone in, we want to make sure that we're supporting you. So that means the 360 degree support system. So yes, you're going to have a manager, but you're also going to have at least one mentor. You're going to have your project director and your project producer as well, because our project directors and we also have a co-leadership in that regard. So you're going to have a lot of support. And if we can't offer that support, we're not going to bring you into that environment. We want to make sure that we have a place that's going to be a place for you to grow and learn and be able to receive that support. So please realize that in regards to our studio, also because of size, some larger companies definitely kind of have a system and a cycle and amount of, we look for 10 people or something like that per semester. As a studio, it will vary just depending on really where the needs are and the support system within that.
And Amanda just reminded me, when we take fellows, we try to start you as a cohort. So you're not coming in as the new kid in class and you're just by yourself. Also, we tend to overlap those fellowships so that you get a chance to see the other people on the other end coming out and being in their last month or two. And you can have those conversations with them of like their experience and understand, you know, a little bit about each other. So don't think you're coming in alone and you're like spotlights on you. It's going to be at least one other person, hopefully.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. We have a question by Veronica that maybe this is more of an elaborative one. I'd love to hear about the areas you see growing in the company. You mentioned art and marketing being big parts, and if you will keep working on VR for the moment.
I'll take that one. So VR for us, we've been working in VR before it was a very popular thing. So pre-COVID and beyond. So that is something that we feel in the industry is just scratching the surface. So yes, we will be in VR and working that, but we also work in AR. If you're not familiar with augmented reality, that's something that we work in. We will be moving hopefully into a little bit of mocap to be able to supplement some of those projects. But again, that is something that we're tracking for the future. And as Jesse likes to say, if it is new, exciting, cutting edge technology, we want to get our hands on it so that we can experiment with it and play around with it. As creatives working in this industry, that makes us excited about the leaps and bounds that we are making with technology. We're even talking about AI and how that could work for us. It's a conversation that we're always having, and we want to evolve in the tech space.
Gosh, yeah. And one person was also asking if there's certain things you look for in a programmer's portfolio. So this is not so much art and animation. If you have the expertise to speak on that.
Sure. So a programmer's perspective, now I would say there's a little more information that we would need to determine what we're looking for. But if you're a true graphics programmer, code samples, have a GitHub, have some places you can show your work, because our studio and other studios want to look at that to be able to make sure that you have the base knowledge of whatever project we're going to be working on. And what I will say to engineers and programmers is understand Unity and Unreal. Even if you're proficient in one, have a little bit of knowledge in the other so that when you go into that interview scenario and they ask you, do you know Unity? You're like, yes, I really know Unity. I've worked in it for 4 years or 2 years, or I did it with my capstone. but we didn't touch on Unreal or vice versa. Well, now you've got this little bit of knowledge to build on, and you can let them know, hey, here's what I've done in Unreal, but I really love the opportunity to learn more, right? Also understanding whether you want to be an engineer or not, or a graphics engineer, because not everybody wants to be a graphics engineer and work in that engine. You may want to be a gameplay engineer and work towards the actual physical gameplay. You might want to be just an engineer specifically working in Unity or Unreal. You need to make that decision for yourself and be very, very firm on why that matters to you so that you can articulate that and research the companies that you're putting your application in. Please do that to make sure that they are the right fit for you.
That is fantastic. We've gone through so many of the questions. I have one more here from Sebastian that's asking, what kind of experience do you look for in an entry-level designer? And do you have any tips for somebody who wants to become more of a better candidate for these design roles?
I'll jump into this one. So in regards to entry level, obviously everyone's coming from different background and different experience. So we're not looking for you to have a massive amount of experience because we understand that's why it's entry level. But obviously, as I'd mentioned, you could be coming from a program from college or a university. That's a specific program that you've had that ability, but that's okay if you haven't. Again, it's leaning on those other opportunities. So it could be, a project you worked on. It could be those game jams I mentioned before, having opportunities to lean into that more specifically. In regards to design for our studio, when we have entry level people that are coming in being considered as a designer, we also have a specific project we're going to send out to you to create and work on. So we want to be able to actually see your design skills in action. So that's definitely something important from the design perspective. So we're going to send you a test, basically. You're going to send it back to us, and we'll have the opportunity to evaluate that as well. So that can definitely be a piece in an interview process too. But definitely being able to, in your resume, share with us the different design experience that you have. If it's not a ton, that's still okay. But again, you want to make sure that you are letting us see your experience. It can be, personal experience. It can be outside projects. We're not expecting it to be necessarily professional experience because, again, that's why it's an entry level. You're looking for that opportunity, but being able to make sure within your resume that you are showcasing that so we can see that in your skill sets. Also, potentially every company is a little bit different in regards to a cover letter, yes or no, and that could be a whole conversation itself. But oftentimes, if a company is looking and they're asking for a cover letter, make sure that you include that. That is something we are wanting to see. But being able to work on just a general cover letter as to, why you're passionate about design, and here are some of the things that you've worked on, and here are some of the projects that you've worked on as well. As I'd mentioned earlier, for us in design, we're not looking for someone that's necessarily, I want to be a level designer, I want to be a narrative designer, and that's all I want to do. At our studio, because we work on so many different projects, and you're going to be changing projects, throughout your time here in our studio, we really look for people that have design skills. So that means, yes, I've done some narrative design, but I also love, a level design perspective, or, I really don't know exactly which area I want to kind of lean into, which from our perspective, we find very helpful because, again, you might be on one project doing one thing, on another project doing another thing as well. And what Carmen had mentioned earlier as well also can apply for design is kind of that in-engine experience. Now, we're not expecting you to be engineers by any means, but again, having some of those skill sets to be able to kind of bridge that gap between engineering. Our designers and engineers do a lot of work together, so having a little bit experience along those lines, and that can include Unity and Unreal. So again, that's wonderful if you have one that you've done, and that might just be your program that you're in, and yep, we only exclusively work in Unreal, at least in my school projects. Having the ability to, jump into an experience and kind of start to dabble in Unity will always be a benefit for you to kind of have, experience in both areas as well. So hopefully that helps.
That's super helpful. We have a quick question on, could you give an estimate on how many people are usually brought on for seasonal fellowships so everyone has kind of an idea?
I'll take that one. So for seasonal fellowships, as Amanda stated, it's very important to us to make sure that we are staffing you on a project, just like any other project, or excuse me, any other person working at the studio, making sure that you have an environment where you can learn and grow on that project. So what that means for us is being able to, as Amanda said, give you that 360 support. And then each of the departments within their purview will come to us as the recruiters and say, I need an intern, I need a fellow. And through our internal process, we need to sit down and have a conversation to make sure that we're giving you that 360 support. And that's how we determine whether or not we're opening 1 slot, 3 slots, or 4 slots within the studio and or department. So what that means for you is we are doing our due diligence to make sure that we are the right place for you to give you what you need. And also, I will flip that around and say, if you are applying or if you are considering our studio, do your research, make sure that we're the right studio for you. The information that Amanda and I have shared is from our perspective and our studio, but I know a lot of you out there love Riot Games and you love that artwork, and maybe you want to work there, or maybe you have played an MMO that you're like, I just fell in love with, i.e. Blizzard. If that's where you want to be, again, make sure that you are doing your research, because each and every one of you have valued skills and have a lot to offer a studio, and it is a two-way street in regard to your career, your decisions, and making those goals happen for you.
That's a fantastic answer. One last fun question I have is, what are some of your favorite games right now at the moment?
I'll let Amanda go first.
I was gonna say, I'll jump in and start on that one, then I'll pass it over to Carmen. So in regards to games, I'm definitely much more of a cozy games person for the most part. So definitely enjoy kind of that side of things, you know, leaning into that one. We have a couple different games. I really do enjoy the Lost Recipes game. It is really soothing for sure, to be able to enjoy that. But I would say for me, one of the games that I actually really enjoy is Beat Saber. So I don't know if it's the rhythm. I enjoy music, and so I think that's a part of it. Plus, it's a great way to still stay active. For sure, I can definitely get a good workout in if you know, depending on the game and or the songs I'm choosing for sure. So I would say those tend to be kind of the quick ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
So for me, I'm an old school gamer, and I love going back to some of those classic Atari games and things like that. So, you know, emulators. I also love a online MMORPG, which gives me a chance to play with other community members and do things as a group. And then alternatively, I love a good co-op game that I can play specific to family and friends. And if you are competitive like me, games like, what is it? The cooking one where you have the little meeples and you have to make those things like that are amazingly fun. And you know, you can talk smack to your family and friends when they mess up and burn something. Yeah, Overcooked. Thank you guys. Love that.
Oh my gosh, I played that one recently, and I'm not too much of a gamer, unfortunately, but that got me into the spirit. Like, I was very much into it. But yeah, this is like we're getting up to our time now, right? Abigail? We're closing up. If anyone has any questions still, you can always reach out, I believe, right? With the QR code to Carmen and Amanda online and on LinkedIn. But yeah, thank you so much for so much information today and answering all of our questions. For me, you know, I'm a student in animation as well, so this is really informative to me as well. But yeah, if you have any like last words, where can people find you online?
Just go to our LinkedIn or X, Twitter. I think we're both on there. And I would like to say that it has been our pleasure to meet with you all and have this conversation and share our knowledge. If you feel that there's something was lacking from this presentation and you'd like to hear something else from us specific to your AIA community, then you're going to reach out to Karina and let her know. Also, if you do Amanda and I just a little favor, if you enjoyed this and you found something useful, tag us on LinkedIn and say how wonderful we were or what you want to know about next time, because we're going to see those comments and we're going to be able to work with Karina and make something even more informative and specific to what you guys want to hear. Amanda, I'll throw it over to you.
No, just ditto, Carmen, for sure. We are extremely thankful for the opportunity to connect with you all and share with you. It is something that we truly enjoy. We do what we do because we love it. We love the opportunity to be able to help all of you be able to lean into your dream of being in the video game industry. That is very much our passion. And so thank you again so much. And as Carmen said, yeah, definitely we would love to know if there's something else that would be helpful, that you would have loved to know. But we look forward to connecting with you and forward to seeing you in the industry at some point as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you so much for attending.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great rest of your day.
Have a good day, guys.
Thanks.